Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Oregon here on Monday morning, September the 9th. We have a tropical system to talk about this morning over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Very likely will become a hurricane by the time it reaches the Louisiana coastline, probably central Louisiana coastline, let's say by later Wednesday, later in the day Wednesday, just a little more than 48 hours from now. It is going to become a named tropical storm, probably momentarily, probably over the next couple of hours. I would say by midday today it should become a named tropical storm, which would be the first, by the way, since Ernesto way back in the early to middle part of the month of August, and then slide slowly to the north, kind of paralleling the Texas coastline and ultimately probably making landfall in about 48 to 60 hours or so later in the day on Wednesday, and again likely the central Louisiana coastline, but that of course remains to be seen exactly where it ends up going. After that it probably pushes north right over the Mississippi River Valley region all the way into the interior part of the U.S. Last week we talked about the southwestern Gulf of Mexico being kind of a prime area this time of the year, the climatological peak time of the year for the Atlantic Basin tropical season. And one of the reasons it is the climatological peak is that the sea surface temperatures in much of the tropical Atlantic reach their peak around this time of the year. And take a look here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. These temperatures are in Celsius, but we're seeing this pocket of very, very warm water, 31 degrees, we're talking 87, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, some of the warmest water in the whole Atlantic Basin right here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. We'll see in a moment here on the National Hurricane map, that is exactly the position of this tropical system right now, and again it should become a named tropical storm over the next couple of hours and then likely move generally in this fashion and probably again making landfall later in the day on Wednesday as a hurricane in the central part of Louisiana. Obviously all residents along the entire Texas coastline, Louisiana coastline, and into Mississippi should stay closely monitored to the situation regarding this tropical system. And you can see out here we have a lot of very warm waters. These are not the anomalies, these are the actual sea surface temperatures right now, but very warm in the western part of the tropical Atlantic. Well, speaking of anomalies, here is the sea surface temperature anomaly map for the current time here. Again, this whole area right here throughout the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean Sea, the western part of the tropical Atlantic, all above normal and very close, if not at the peak temperature of the season here in the middle part as we approach the middle part of September. Kind of an interesting feature right here. Some chilly water, cooler than normal water, right along the east coast here. Let's say from Long Island down to the Outer Banks, a pocket of chilly water right there along the Middle Atlantic coastline here. But again, in the breeding ground region of the tropical Atlantic, above normal temperatures as we approach the climatological peak time period for the tropical season. Well, here's the official positioning right now of the tropical systems in the Atlantic as depicted here by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. This is currently called Tropical Cyclone 6, should become a named tropical storm momentarily over the next couple of hours, and again very likely to move very slowly in this fashion, paralleling the Texas coastline and perhaps making landfall later Wednesday as a Category 1 or 2 hurricane in the central part of Louisiana. All residents along Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas coastline certainly pay close attention to this system here over the next couple of days. Meanwhile, there's a couple other pretty impressive tropical waves, again, about to move over some of those very, very warm waters of the western part of the tropical Atlantic. So indeed these have a good chance, at least one of these two systems has a very good chance of becoming a named tropical storm, perhaps even both of them over the next several days. Well, before we take a look at last night's Canadian model run, let's just take a look here at the impressive look at this chilly air mass that extends all the way from Texas to the Mid-Atlantic coastline here this morning as we begin the new work week here on Monday. Lots of areas at or near record low temperatures this morning. Again, this is all as a result of strong high pressure to the north and east sitting over the southeastern part of Canada, and it is a chilly air mass indeed. Temperatures in the 40s in many of the suburbs, the northern western suburbs along the I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic, for example, but the cooler than normal conditions extend all the way down to Texas, with again many areas at record low temperatures for the day or within a couple of degrees of record low temperatures for the day. So impressive indeed here. This particular map comes from coolweather.com. Well, now let's jump right into the Canadian model run from 0Z last night. Here is that cooler than normal air mass extending all the way from Texas to New England as we begin the new work week here. Very, very hot weather out across the west coast, especially Southern California over the past couple of days and over the next couple of days. Places like Los Angeles, San Diego experiencing some very hot weather, well above normal. Wildfires just to the east of Los Angeles continue to rage in the overnight hours. This is kind of wildfire season out in California, September and especially October, when it's generally relatively dry weather. And after a season-long period of drying conditions here, this is wildfire season indeed. There are some now raging out here in Southern California. So very, very hot. But we'll see over the next 10 days, this area flips in terms of the temperature pattern. In fact, let's move forward here. We'll watch this cooler than normal weather hangs out for another day or two in the northeast. And then pretty much you see lots of reds here, much above normal across the northern plains by midweek. By the way, this is a little bit of a reflection here by midweek of that tropical system here. Again, it looks like later in the day on Wednesday it could be approaching the Louisiana coastline as a hurricane. Then we'll continue to move forward here, and just looking at the temperatures for now, and we'll see kind of a mixed bag across the country. A lot of above normal conditions by Friday across the northern plains, much of the Great Lakes. It starts to turn cooler than normal across the Rocky Mountain states later this week, and then we'll continue to move forward here through the weekend. A lot of warm conditions across the heartland here, and notice California here. We had this very hot weather in the past couple of days and the next couple of days, but by the time we get to next week this time, about a week away from right now, we have a much colder than normal air mass. Looks like it'll be pushing in off the Pacific Ocean into Washington, Oregon, California. This is, again, is about a week from right now. It, meanwhile, stays well above normal across the northern plains. This is by Tuesday of next week. We'll go out another day into the middle part of next week, and here we go. Still much colder than normal out across the western states for the first half of next week, and warmer than normal out across the northern plains. Well, let's now walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the Canadian model. I think this particular model has a good handle on this tropical situation, and I tend to agree with the path that it chooses here for the soon-to-be named tropical system here. I'm not sure what the next name is, but Ernesto was the last one back that formed on August 12th, and this is the first one. A long, quiet period in the Atlantic, not far from the climatological peak time period in the Atlantic, but this certainly should become a named tropical system over the next couple of hours. Here it is as we begin the day. Again, 87, 88 degree Fahrenheit water just beneath this is the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Certainly a favorite area for this time of the year for tropical storm formation and intensification. Now let's push forward. It is moving very slowly right now, 5 miles per hour, and here we go. By the time we get 24 hours from now, tomorrow morning, it has intensified. It started off here this morning at 1005 millibars. Notice by tomorrow morning, this time 998, likely becomes a hurricane tomorrow. Tropical storm today, a hurricane sometime on Tuesday. And here we go again. It parallels the Texas coastline here, 993 by later tomorrow night. And here we go, 990 here by the time we get to early Wednesday morning. It's about 48 hours from right now, Again, all residents along Texas, Louisiana coastline should monitor the situation closely. And then I believe it makes landfall somewhere around central Louisiana, maybe the western part of Louisiana, by midday, later in the day on Wednesday. Just a little more than 48 hours from now, and again, it continues to intensify down to a 985 millibar center here. Probably category 2, could be category 1 at this particular time. We'll have to see how that evolves over the next 48 hours or so. And then after that, notice again, very strong high pressure base to the north and east. And this system pretty much moves over the Mississippi River as it goes into the interior part of the U.S. Here we go. By Friday morning, what remains of this tropical storm, hurricane, will likely be somewhere over the middle Mississippi Valley region, and on its eastern side, that'll certainly pump up a lot of very, very humid air all the way into the Ohio Valley here, the Tennessee Valley here by the time we get to Friday. And I'll tell you what, we could use some rain in the Mid-Atlantic region, but it'll be pretty hard pressed to get a lot of rain out of this with this high pressure system just maintaining control all week long. Yet another very, very dry week in the Mid-Atlantic region. There's been very little rainfall over the past couple of months in much of the Mid-Atlantic region. And this high pressure system will really inhibit the advancement to the north and east of the tropical moisture. Here we go all the way into Saturday, and finally by Sunday, just having a hard time penetrating that dry air over the Mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S. And here, by the time we get to Sunday, the remnants of what will become a tropical storm and ultimately a hurricane sitting over the Great Lakes region by the second half of the upcoming weekend. Again, very hot conditions for the next couple of days over places like Southern California, but they have a big change in the temperature pattern coming a week from now, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. That's it for now for ArcfieldWeather.com. This has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.